This is a Fender 65 Deluxe Reverb reissue. Sweetwater Mod Shop, SWX. So, rear panel mid-range control. Okay, that's a mod that I do on these a lot. Revised tremolo circuit, wider range of speeds, deeper intensity. I do that. Expanded effects access. Now, this is where it gets tricky. Reverb and tremolo effects are accessible on both the normal and vibrato channels. Enables in-phase simultaneous use of both channels. Now, the 68 custom that Fender sells has this mod. The 68 custom does this mod very badly. You end up with a very noisy amp. I have no idea if Sweetwater has done it correctly or done it the way Fender did. We will find out. I have deliberately not looked inside yet. I want to see if they do anything about the filter caps. Now, the owner of this amp bought it, had it sent to me to check out and see what he got, basically. See what the current status of the Sweetwater mod shop is and what I think about it. Right now, I don't think anything about it, good or bad. I have no opinion. I will have an opinion after I go through this. So let's go through this together and see what they did. Now remember, filter caps are not on the list of mods that they do, but changing out the stock filter caps in the Fender reissue series is probably the most important mod you can do. That and dealing with the heat of the screen grid resistors. We will find out about that in a little bit too, but let's see what they did. All right, got the stock IC caps. None of them are leaking yet. None of them are burned yet because it's a brand new amp. Eventually, these will begin to leak. Eventually, some of these resistors may toast. I'll sort that out if the owner wants me to do anything. I don't know whether he wants me to do anything or just see if he got a good thing and send it back if not. Because the mods that they did do are pretty simple things. Before we flip it over, let's make sure all the hardware is tight. Fender's not known for getting all their hardware tight from the factory. That one was loose. A little bit loose. Very loose. Not, come off with your fingernail loose, but not acceptable. Before I flip it over, let's check the input jacks and the speaker jacks. A little bit loose. Not too bad. I've seen a lot worse on many Fender reissues, but these could be better. I suspect it's because Sweetwater probably had to pull this board out to do their work, so they put it back. It's probably a lot better than you find from the factory. Usually from the factory, these things are just a little bit beyond finger tight. Let's check the speaker jacks too. Foot switch. Loose. Sweetwater wouldn't have touched that. Speaker jack, loose. Speaker jack, loose. That's not on Sweetwater. That's on Fender. Before we flip this chassis over, though, let's look at this mid-range pot on the back with its knob. The knob is mounted pretty far from the chassis there, and given how far it sticks out, I'm a little concerned that it might protrude from the cabinet and get sheared off in transit. I don't know about that. I don't know what pot it is yet. I have not looked at the other side. I do know that if, from a player's perspective, with a knob on the back, if you reach around on stage to see where the knob's at, your fingers have no way of telling you what o'clock position you're at. So, your ears will help, but sometimes, you're setting up for a show, you want to be able to say, all right, I always like it at 4. Well, you have no way of feeling that. You have to look around, and on a dark stage, you need a flashlight, and there are prettier knobs you could use, like this one, like from a previous Bassman style. Looks awesome. Again, you can't feel where you're at. When I put a mid-range pot on one of these, I always do a chicken head. Does it match the knobs on the front of the amp? No. But you can reach behind it and feel, oh, I'm at 10 o'clock, that's where I want to be, or I'm at 9 o'clock, or I'm at 3 o'clock, wherever I want it to be. You can feel on stage, on a dark stage. So this is not a criticism of Sweetwater. This is not a critique. This is not finding something to be faulty about. It's just that this, on stage, is always going to be a better choice than something that looks pretty. All right, looking at the inside, and I'm very disappointed here. They're doing the same thing that Fender does on the 68 Custom, where they're just blending the two plates for V2B and V1B, and they're removing the separate coupling cap, and they're eliminating one of the mixed resistors at the other end, which I won't show you now. It's just a snipped resistor. This is a little bit more graceful than the way Fender does it, but Fender just has the wire from here to here. But the problem is, in addition to being a DC mixer, which is inherently noisier than an AC mixer, if one of the tubes is pulled, The remaining tube gets half the gain. Not a gain increase like you get with a blackface Fender, traditional, but you get half the gain because you effectively have a 47K plate for one tube, one triode. That's not so good. These are also kind of crappy resistors. If they're going to be doing a mod, they might as well have changed that. Earlier I said that I assumed that they pulled the board to do the mods. I don't think that they did. I'll show you why. Here's their Tremolo mods. These are some of the cheapest capacitors in the world. They're just tack soldered on top of existing components. And on this Fender board, which is single-sided, all the pads and traces on the other side, if you heat up solder to this to add things to it like this, you don't know what's happening on the other side. Sometimes traces and pads get damaged. Sometimes things get loose. You get a bad connection. This is kind of amateur hour. There's some solder left on the board here. There's kind of sloppy work. Color me not impressed with that. They've got the screen grid resistors on the board. These will have to burn. When they burn, they damage the board. They've got the stock quick connects for the heaters. These often char, and when that happens, the board gets damaged. If you move the AC wiring for the heaters to the octal sockets, if you move the screen grid resistors for the output tubes to the octal sockets, two major causes of failure, which damage the board, are no longer on the board. All right, here's where they remove the 6.8K mids resistor from the vibrato channel, and they put in a pot. And that's fine the way they've done it, though it could be done a little more neatly. That's kind of ragged on the solder. I'll tell you, they missed out on a trick, though. As long as you're running shielded wire like this, if you got the trace right after this bright cap here, and you should remove the bright cap on a Deluxe Reverb reissue because that sounds awful, put another shielded wire here going to V2B grid, then you eliminate a very noisy trace in the amp, which is one of the main causes of background hiss. That also entails removing this green wire going to the V2B grid. All right, they've used a Burns 10K. I'm assuming audio taper. I've not measured the taper yet. Good quality pot. If you must use a 16 millimeter pot, that's a really good choice. I'm a little concerned about the total shaft length. I'll play around with that afterwards. I just don't want that pot to get sheared off in the back of a combo if it's put in, laid on its back in a truck and then moved, as happens from time to time. Also got to say I'm disappointed in Sweetwater that they left the V3 wiring stock. That's one of the mistakes Fender's been making since the reissue series came out. They get something fundamentally wrong. It causes hum. If you look at how it was done in 63, Fender did it for a reason. In the 65 reissue, they have the grid normally in a loop on the outside of the tube rather than crossing the tube. On this one, it's even worse. It's right there resting up against this heater wire. And they have the cathode crossing and they have the plate crossing. What Fender did back in the day was they had the cathode crossing very low, and then they had the grid crossing across the tube. So it was dressed as far away from the two heaters, the two sides of the heaters as possible. And then the plate connection looped around the tube and was run down by the chassis. And that simple change makes for a much quieter Deluxe Reverb or Twin Reverb or Super Reverb, etc. Fender's never gotten it right in the reissues, but they got it right back in the day. So, that's pretty obvious. That'd be a place to make a mod. I gotta say, overall, I'm pretty disappointed in this. I had higher hopes. This is some quick and dirty, kind of crappy work. The main issues the amp has are not addressed. There's a little bit of a gee whiz factor, but much more time went into the graphic design for the marketing than went into the actual sound. Okay, aside from the output tubes, which are a pair of 6 V6s from the tube store, which came with the amp, so I can make sure the amp is biased for those tubes, all the other tubes in this amp right now are those that I pulled from a visiting 64. Not a 64 custom, not the new thing, an actual Deluxe Reverb from 1964. So it's got a mixture of new old stock and current production tubes. In the 64, the amp is dead quiet with those tubes. With this one, I gotta say it's a lot quieter than the 68 custom as far as the noise floor. You can definitely hear that the amp is on. It's got a little bit of hiss, nothing drastic. It's fine. It's not as quiet as it could be if it had a AC mixer instead of a DC mixer, but much better than the 68 custom. 68 custom also decreases negative feedback, which exaggerates the problem. Here's the normal channel. Seems to be lacking a little bit of low end. Granted, it's a Telecaster, but I usually get more lows. I'm going to take a look and see if there's anything else that's been changed that they don't mention, but everything else looks pretty stock. Let's try the vibrato channel. Definitely hear it's got that bright cut. The reverb goes up. You hear some noise coming up. Part of that is because the chassis is out of the cabinet, doesn't have any shielding up top. Part of it is that lead dress on V3 I mentioned. Most people keep the reverb around here. It's okay there. For any of you discovering my channel for the first time and you're like, oh, this guy's not a badass. No, I'm not a badass guitarist anymore. I've got some hand damage. I haven't forgotten what guitar is, and I've not forgotten how amps work. I just can't show you the badass chops you might find on some other channels. I get the occasional pro player in for that. Not necessary. Now let's check out the tremolo. That's a nice range of speeds. It's a nice, real deep tremolo. Not getting any of the thudding you often get with the reissue fenders due to lead dress, so that's nice. Now, if you notice when I turn the speed up really fast, it cuts out for a second. And then kicks back in. That's because I got a 22 microfarad cap on the cathode of V5B. If you change that to a 4.7, that little dropout goes away. It's a niggle. One little area where you can make it even better. Overall, though, it sounds pretty good. Oh, I guess I'll show that, yes, both channels are affected. And now I've pulled V2. I'm using the normal channel, should have less gain. Because the V1B triode now has a 47K plate because of the way they paralleled the 100Ks. So that's not great, but it is what it is. Anyway, it's not perfect, but it doesn't suck. Sometimes, once in a blue moon, the DC mixer for blending the channels works. Most of the time, the DC mixer here makes the amp noisier. Has a tss in the background at all times. And at all times, if one of these tubes goes out, then the remaining channel will be weak as hell because it's only going to have a 47K plate. So there is a better way to do this. There's a better way to do this. There's a better way to implement a knob for the mid-range control on the back. Fender reissues burning in this area or this area is very common. It's better to fix that. The filter caps fail time and time again. These are things that should be changed. These are things which have not been changed. I don't know what the markup is for the mods versus the stock one, but your mileage may vary. Anyway, I'm going to put this video up, let the owner see it, talk to him, see if he wants me to actually finish the mods to make this a really good amp, or whether he wants to send it back as is. It's not my call. Thanks for watching.